Zucchini here. Who else would it be? This is Observations with Otsu. I'm glad you can join me today. A little bit later of a recording today. Completely fine. You guys know the drill by now. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. We're going to kind of cover that. I think I'm going to cover a couple more coins as well. I want to cover Dogecoin. Dogecoin is coming up. It's popping up just a little bit. It's one that we've been talking about in our Discord group. And so I've been kind of reserving that for Discord. I'm going to talk about it openly here in YouTube. Now, that being said, I talk about a lot of things in Discord, usually a week or two before I talk about it in YouTube or other things like if it's really pertaining to something detailed. So if you aren't a part of my free Discord, you can join it. And so we do share a lot of, I don't want to say alpha, that I kind of hate that term, but we do share a lot of insight that is beneficial in most cases. And then I also have Knowhere Premium, which is more of a private group that is a paid group, but it's also really robust, I should say. I'm going to mention that in detail in a little bit, just for a couple minutes. I'm going to try to shorten that. And so that's pretty much the gist of that. And I'm going to cover one other coin. Not quite sure which one it'll be, but I might cover AI coins since that's kind of the narrative right now. See where they're at and see what's going on. So that being said, I hope you're having a good day so far. I hope this will be an enjoyable video. I'm going to get into the preliminaries, which is going to be talking about my my premium and stuff like that. And then I'm going to get into the theme of this video, and then we'll cover the charts. All right, so first things first, just some preliminaries, mainly just a plug. As you guys might know, I do not sponsor. I don't get sponsored. I don't really take sponsors unless it's just a really good deal for you guys. I'm not interested in shilling some exchanges for you for petty ref links, things like that. I do have a partnership with BingX. You can check that out. I do have a referral for that, but that's not nothing I advertise because I don't want to force something on you. BingX is also a big enough exchange where a lot of you guys probably use it. If you're in my Discord, you probably do use it in some capacity. So you're welcome to use it, but I can also give you a regular link that's not a ref link, because that's just not how I operate. And so if you want to support me, and I apologize if this is plugin, but I do this once a week on Observations with Otsu. If you would like to support me and allow me to support you as well, I have a few different things that I offer. The first of which is Knowhere Premium. That's the lowest tier right now. That starts at $20 per month. I do intend to raise that to either 25 or 30, and by February or by March 1st, depending on the number of features I will add to it. And the biggest thing about that is I have a trading portfolio that's been up about 80% in the last 40 days. The idea is to get 25% profits every month for the rest of this year. We started at roughly, a little over $11,000. It was actually 1/4 of one Bitcoin. That's where I started. The idea is to get 25% every month, would give us about 3.6 Bitcoin by the end of the year. So which would be a minimum probably 160,000 according to the previous Bitcoin price, and it could be up as high as 300,000 or more depends on the price of the Bitcoin, right? And so we have all the details planned in the group already. That's part of what the discussion is for. And that's just one aspect of the premium group. There's really 6 different things. We have private videos. We also have a lot of extra positions that we talk about. We have mini market plus updates, which is a 10-minute video roughly 5 days a week that goes deeper into the charts. And I offer a 10-minute video for free every 5 days a week for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and that's for all members, but I dive deeper for paid members. So that's very simple, $20 a month. So there's that. I also have my Apex indicator script that is a little more pricey. I also have 3 other scripts that you can choose, 3 other script packages you can choose from. I've got four scripts altogether, and they range in different price points and different uses. The Apex indicator gives you the buys and sells for you. Here's an example of what this looks like. So Bitcoin, for example, we had a buy opportunity at 29,000. And so if you add your long signal like so, it's designed to plug and play. You put your entry at the top of that line. You put your stop loss roughly at the low of this line. And then you you take profits when you desire to. It's designed to automate everything for you except for the take profits, and that depends on you because everybody works at different ways, right? Some of you guys got more money, some of you guys got less, some of you guys are married, single, whatever, and some of you guys aren't even guys. So it's like you guys got to adjust it according to you. But for this example, you would have gotten in on a 74% run at about 8R. I operate with R values. Some of you guys do not. That's completely okay. So that's the example of what I'm looking for, or what the script is. Here's another example here. This is the weekly time frame, mind you. But if you went up all the way to this top, for example, that would have been 47R. And so that just depends how that goes. I believe, um, looking on the daily, yeah, we would have got the buy opportunity here at 42,000 and do that like so. And so I'm not afraid to just share these to you, and that would have been the 9R at 23%. So see what I'm saying? Looks pretty good already. I did 6 hours worth of back testing videos on that you can look at. That's just the one script that I look at. This is the second script that I have. This is called the Apex, or not the Apex, it's called the Aroon trend, sometimes called the ATMR indicator. This shows you what the Aroon looks like as far as the trend goes. This tells you the strength as far as like how thick this is or not. The thicker it is, the more trendy the price action will be. The blue and the gray, or really dark gray, I should say, helps determine the Aroon trend and strength and momentum, things like that. So that one's pretty good as well. And then last but not least, we also have the liquidity indicator. And so this is the one where you have buys and sells where the Aroon, this is the weekly time frame. So the one about this is there's not as many, it doesn't fire as much as the other two, but it's also the cheapest of the two, or of the three, I should say. And with this one, you have buys and sells where the liquidity is at its weakest. So for example, here, this is one reason why I bought so low, is because the Aroon showed me that there was a maximum weakness at the low point. Basically, we were overstretched to the downside, and when that happens, we have liquidity issues. When that happens, reversals tend to happen. And so I've noticed that a few years ago with the Aroon indicator, I was able to codify this, and that is another thing that I can offer to you guys. So again, I'm not trying to plug necessarily, but if any of those can help you, I'm happy to go forward with that and help you in that capacity, whether that's the scripts. Scripts come in monthly or one-time payment options. You get a discount if you do one-time payments. Knowhere Premium is only monthly, but you can buy more months at a time. So like I said, if that supports you, then great. Not trying to plug here, but it does help support me, which also helps support you, and that becomes a circular support system. So I would be very grateful for you to do that, but you don't have to. It's just something that allows me to do what I do best, because sometimes even sponsors get in the way. It's like I got a client that and he's doing good. He's got he's got a lot more money than I do. He's probably 8 figures. So, but the thing is, he's trying to get sponsors, and they require him to make like 8 videos a month or something like this, and it's just like, okay, he can do it, but it's like kind of tedious. I don't have to do any of that. Okay, I'm here to support you. I can make charts for you, whatever, right? And so a small, $20 a month is very cheap. It's almost like 2 coffees now. Like my local Starbucks, they charge like $7.50 now. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I look at that as let me do, I spend maybe 3 hours a day, maybe 2, 3 hours a day. Let's just say 3, focusing on you guys every day. And so I'm doing about 20 hours worth of work for you guys, but it allows me to do research on these coins. I give these to you. And so basically look at this way. I do maybe 20, 25 hours worth of work every week for you all. That's 20 hours. And even if you half that, that's like 10. So it's like you get 10 to 20 hours per week that you save by me doing that work for you. And so all I ask in return is a few cups of coffee. That's it. So anyway, sorry if that was kind of a bit of a plug. That's just kind of what I have for my side of this. So anyway, going to get to the theme of this video. We'll get started. So the theme of this video, so the title, I guess, is the countdown begins is ETH taking off. And so it's kind of a somewhat of a play on words with what people are thinking about lately in the markets. A lot of people are looking at ETH warming up as it's approaching 3,000. We will get into that, the significance of that or not. ETH will probably take the majority of the analysis for today. But we're also looking overall at just the strength of the market. So I want to look at the total market cap, which I don't really do anymore. Because I used to have a big theme for this. But overall, you can see we had this distribution from a couple years ago. We had this markdown consolidation markup phase. We're clearly in the markup phase. Now, if you look at the Wall Street cheat sheet in regards to this, this looks like we're kind of either in hope phase or optimism phase. And so it's one of these things where um, a lot of people, like we see a lot of discussion. Like it seems that like Twitter's pretty quiet. First of all, crypto Twitter is no longer crypto Twitter. Like crypto is just crypto. It's grown enough to where it is outside the bounds of Twitter. There's people on TikTok, there's people on Facebook, there's people I know in real life that I go to church with that don't even have a Twitter account that have probably bought more Bitcoin than me. Okay, because they had more capital to dispose of. When I first started crypto, I had no net worth. I had negative. Okay, I was getting sued by a medical company for some unpaid bills. Actually, it was Synchrony Bank on behalf of a company, um, and so I had a lot of unpaid medical bills. I settled. What I literally did is the only thing that I had an asset, which I didn't even know that I had as an asset, was my car. And so what I did was I collateralized my car to pay off. I basically found out what my car was worth, asked him for that amount in the settlement, and so I used that to pay that off. That's how I began my crypto journey, with having a loan on a 7-year-old car, probably even 10 years, I think, at the time, after I had just paid it off and used it for collateral for unpaid medical bills. So I had a big hassle with that, right? So long story, it's a long story. It's not super bad. It's not super, woe is me kind of thing. But the thing is, I started with negative net worth. Okay, but a lot of you guys did not, and that's completely fine. And you should develop good personal finance habits. Anyway, the point is, crypto is beyond the Twitter sphere nowadays, so we got to keep that in mind. And so I had somebody even talk to me the other day, like, well, altcoins, because the consensus of this theme is that I think Bitcoin is going to chop for the next 2 to 3 weeks, even as long as the next 2 months, while ETH and altcoins start flying. And somebody said to me, well, that's not going to be possible because retail hasn't joined. And I'm like, what? Like, again, I'm not trying to offend anybody or offend this person. I don't even remember who they are, and that's okay. That's better off that way. Nothing is personal. I know sometimes I appear to be rude and strict. I promise that is not the case. Probably slightly autistic of me, I guess. But the thing is, retail is somewhat of a vague term. It's always been a vague term for numerous reasons. One, if you try to apply that like as a strict rule, first of all, you're going to miss most of the moves. If you're looking at retail coming in kind of thing, like this isn't 2017 anymore, okay? Retail is technically here. I don't think it's ever left, okay? Like I know a guy where I would classify him as retail, and he's been in crypto for the last 3 years straight. Okay, he's a little. I wouldn't call him a crypto person. He knows what he's talking about, but he's not like nerdy about it. And so I would classify him as probably retail, but I don't know of anybody, because like I got people that have retirement accounts that have asked me in my life about Bitcoin, and they've bought Bitcoin, and guess what? They probably still have it. Nobody's really said one way or the other. Like, but the whole idea of this whole retail thing, it's just so vague anyway. Like you're trying to create a construct, and I say this about Jerome Powell, FOMC, CPI, all these things. Like nobody gives a crap about these things until it already happens. The market's down 10%, and you're using it as an excuse to figure out why the market went down 10% because you're too dang lazy to look at the charts like we should be. And I don't mean that in the wrong way. I really don't mean to call anybody lazy in a bad way, an insulting way. I'm not. And that's one reason why I have things like Knowhere Premium is let me do the dirty work for you. Let me do all the research. That's what I used to do. for a living. That's what I used to do for my college, things like that. Like, it comes natural to me. And so let me kind of do things for you if it helps you. If it doesn't, it's fine. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. But what I am trying to say is try to find the most optimal way to how to make money the best. You know, don't the last thing you need to do. So part of this could be right. Like, part of this, the retail FMC, it could all be right. I don't think it is. I'm pretty certain that it's not. But the thing is, it's being used as a catalyst to do less instead of actually looking at the markets, trying to know your worth, trying to gain as much as possible. Like, I don't make excuses, okay? I could make excuses. I got a special needs son that needs my attention at any given time. I'm at home right now, recording in my room that I record in. I could have him come up now. He could need me. We could go somewhere. Like, when if he has a tantrum, I gotta cancel everything. Okay, and that's why if you're in my Discord group, you know if I have to postpone, that is why. So sometimes that happens, but I don't use that as an excuse to tell you why I suck at trading. Okay, I just need to keep going. That's just what I've been given in my life, and I need to work with that. Okay. And honestly, some of that stuff helps you to be more resilient, helps you to be more patient with your trades, helps you not to risk over too much because you need to feed your family. And they got all these things that those things actually build character to make you a better trader, not less. And yeah, that's easy to say right now when I'm feeling okay, and then maybe tomorrow I'm feeling like crap because, like, the walls feel like they're caving in or whatever. But I'm rambling. But the idea is, try to maximize your potential for your growth. And right now with the markets is probably the best time to maximize your potential because ETH does look like it's taken off. A lot of coins do look like it's taken off. I do think we could get a red day here the next couple of days, but I think overall altcoins look amazing right now, especially on the weekly. I mentioned this in premium yesterday. Like, there's a lot of coins. I gave about, how many coins did I give? I think like 9 or 10 coins. I got it on my notes here. But 8 coins that are on weekly time frames, but they look amazing. They look absolutely stunning on 1 week. And so they may take a couple weeks to play out, but that's part of it, right? But ETH looks like it might be leading the market. If it does, we also know that ETH is a catalyst for the alt season. So that's part of that, right? And so that's where I think the time is near. Like, a lot of people think that this time is different, blah, blah, blah. I've seen that all the time with the Bitcoin having all this other stuff. But people were saying that about FTX. People were saying about the bottom. Guess what? Everything has played exactly how it usually goes so far in this cycle. I'd say we're about 40% done with this cycle already. Now, the good news is the meat of the move has not happened yet. It's very close to happening. But I want you to be cautious of that. The market looks pretty good. But everything has happened as it should be. Like, we had this big divergence on 3 week chart, which I won't go to. Everybody thought that wasn't going to go down. It did. Everybody thought that this was not capitulation. Like, let's look at this for example, because I was one of the few that was saying that this was capitulation. Okay, this went down 60% in 100 days. You're telling me that that's not capitulation? The whole concept of capitulation is that a market goes down really, really, really fast in a low amount of time. Okay, some of your best traders that are better than me did not get this. Okay, and I say that with great respect because there are a lot of traders that are way better than I will ever be. Okay, that just they don't understand these things, and that's completely fine because they're doing something where they're making more money than me, so I guess they don't care. And that's fine, like, because it's not even about being right or wrong, right? It's just about understanding. It's about making money. If you can make money, you know trading doesn't really matter which else. So anyway, that was the capitulation, and then we had the anger distribution phase. And so, was this kind of your hope phase? It depends. Like, what is your hope phase here? Is your hope phase here? I think this was probably it, in my opinion. And so now we're kind of going into the optimism phase, and then we'll go into the markup phase. And so everything has been planned out perfectly so far. A lot of people didn't think the FTX bottom, which was this candle right here, they didn't think that would be the bottom. They thought it was a sign to go down to 8,000 Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. We know the story behind that. We know how wrong that was. But the idea is a lot of people had their heads too stuck in the game up here at capitulation, here at the bottom, and now they're kind of doing the same thing here. And so I'm not new to this, okay? And again, I'm welcome to be wrong. But I do think that we have gone into a lot, we're about 40%, in my opinion, into the bull market. I think we are already, you know, ahead. Like a lot of people, I think, feel like things have just started, like 10, 20%. I strongly disagree. I hope I'm wrong because that's more money I can make. But the thing is, that's if you look back at the market, that's not necessarily true. We're probably up 300% from Bitcoin, for example. So whatever. So my thought process is I want you to be aware that the market is probably going to ignite pretty soon. I think Bitcoin is going to chop for a while. We'll get into that. I think Ethereum is going to run. I think altcoins are going to run. But also be patient. Try to take this as easy as you can. Don't make this hard on yourself. I've mentioned this several times already. Find a way to make trading as easy as possible right now because the conditions are going to be easier than they've ever been. I'm so serious about this. Like, I know I get made fun of for this, but something as simple as the RSI 50. So for example, let's look at this. So if we just long on the RSI 50, for example, so right here, let's just say right here, let's say we even miss this candle move. From there to now, we're at 86%. Okay? 86. Now we crossed below here, right? So we didn't get this one, but this was a bounce, and so we got this one right here. Let's say we even missed that big bullish candle all the way to here. You got, was it 25%? Yeah, it's about 25%. So combined, you got about 110% here. So look at your portfolio just on Bitcoin for the last 12, 14 months. Did you gain more than 100%? Now, if your answer is no, then follow. I'm telling you that you should be following what I just told you, the RSI 50 bounce, because you're going to make more money than what you already did. Now, if you only made maybe like 150, okay, that's great. That you made more money. But how much time did you spend? Did you spend 20 hours a week trying to figure this out when you could have just longed the 50 RSI? That is one thing that I do, and I'm not ashamed to do it. I've made more money so far than I have in the last cycles, but the cycle's not over yet. So, but and I got more tools at my disposal because this is my third cycle, so it is easier for me. But the thing is, one reason I make it easier is because one, the conditions allow me to do so. Two, the things like RSI and Aroon give me this for me. Okay, it cannot be easier right now. So don't make this harder on yourself. Don't buy those heat maps. Okay, don't buy Bookmap and all those other things. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. I'm not saying they can't be useful, but if you can't do the basic things, you should not be doing the complicated things, in my opinion. So I'm just saying, look back in the past, and I do encourage you, look at the RSI 50 and see how much money you could have made, and then see if that was more or less than what you did make. And if it is more than what you did make, then I would almost suggest to abort your strategy and just start that one. But I don't know, we'll see. So anyway, that's kind of the theme of this video, looking at how the markets are a little bit ripe. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana on the weekly. We will go into Dogecoin. I think I'll do a little bit of AI coins to end the video. So I had to take a extensive break, about 4 hours, so I apologize in advance for the difference on this. We have just closed the market. It's about 1 hour into the markets, so the analysis here will be a little bit different than what I had prepared for at the beginning of this video. So I want to just say flat out that I apologize for that. We had some stuff going on, and strategically it made more sense to do this after close. In addition to that, I also apologize if I have background noise, because this is why I do videos in the morning. so I don't have to deal with that kind of noise, and I will try to edit that out. I do a lot of editing post recording, so including voice isolation. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do Bitcoin. Now this is observation, so we're going to do a weekly time frame on this first. Now, first of all, we can see. So as you guys may know, if you've seen more than one of my videos, you know I just kind of make a very basic breakdown first. Then I get into the Aroon part of it. That's what I'm known for, and then we kind of break that down even farther, and then to get our foundations, and then we kind of build that up. So now, what are the basics for Bitcoin right now? First of all, we had a weekly close candle. So this is basically so this is the current weekly candle, but this is just Monday. So most of the time we do have a drop down going into the first 24 hours of the markets. We did have a trading holiday here in the States as well. Some people think that matters, some people don't. I don't for the most part. It's more complicated than that, but I don't regard it for my analysis. So anyway, had a pretty big bullish candle. Let's go ahead and mark this out, how much that actually was. And so that was about 8% or so. And so overall, we've had about 20-25% for the past month really. And so we've been eating pretty good as far as the term goes. And that's good. We've had 4 bullish candles. That tends to be a trend more in the up and towards the bullish markets. Here we've had about 8 or so, had a consolidation period. Now we kind of ran that up. And this remains to be seen. This is only 1 day's worth of price action, so can't really judge that off the end of that. In addition to that, so AO, which I usually don't cover, is doing just fine. AO doesn't necessarily matter. It's more of a correlation tool with the RSI only. I don't really correlate that with price action, only RSI. And AO is just really a mix of, AMAs basically, or moving averages of some sort. The other two here, so the first one's Aroon, that's what I'm known for. And so now we have, we peaked up here, now we kind of trickled down here. So now we are starting a bearish wedge formation. Bearish wedge. So there's tons of different ways to interpret Aroon as bullish, certain ways to interpret Aroon as bearish. Of all the bearish theses, or whatever you want to say that word, the bearish wedge is the most bearish probable of all of those. So what this means is right now, and this has to confirm at this closing week. So this is a weekly, so we still have 5, almost 6 days left to go. If we close without getting a new high, which we might get, we might get a new high and then still get a bearish candle. But if we don't get a new high, then we will enter the consolidation, enter the wedge period, I should say, which allows bears to take as much control as they can in a short amount of time. And so that's kind of the idea behind that. And so when we get a wedge like this is what I look out for. Now, we did have a kind of a wedge here, but this actually curled up, and so that's why it invalidated. So a bearish wedge does not have to mean bearish price action. I just want to keep that in mind. And so the thing is, we still have the trend is bullish. That's going to stay a while probably. And so a wedge can look, a bearish wedge is still a bullish trend. So just keep that in mind. But what that basically means is while the bulls are in charge, the bears can kind of eat up some of that real estate, which basically means that we could chop a little bit. That's basically what that means. And so with this here, we very well could go to 46. That's a possibility. And so I'm looking at different targets, as far as downward targets, upward targets, things like that. And, a lot of that speculation right now. I'll get into that here in just a second. But we do have this 46,000 marker I'm looking at. We also had, this is a breaker, by the way, too. And so sometimes, so in most cases, 95% of the time, we retest this blue area. So basically, this is the wick area. So what we do is retest the wicks, which confirms liquidity and continues to go higher. So that's between 45,800 to the upside, basically. I usually round up by the nearest $50. And then, basically 44,000. And so I think that that's relatively easy to achieve. I think we can get that. I'm not necessarily asking for that. That's a drop of 12%, by the way. But I think that should be a possibility here. And so why would I all of a sudden think that we're going to go down when the market's been so hot? Well, there's a few things. First of all, for price action standpoint, we have a few different things. We have this distribution. This is the main thing I'm looking at. This distribution area right here. is pretty sizable. And what basically why I'm looking at this, if you're not familiar with these types of patterns, is this was an area of contention where we fought back and forth for supply and demand, supply and demand. We lost this, then we ended up getting it back, and then we lost it again. We lost it again pretty significantly, and then we retested this. Actually, you could probably just go ahead and mark it up like here, which also runs in line with that 46. And the marker for that would be this area here, retest here. So this is probably more of a weight than the rest of them. I'm not quite interested in this top yet because this top was a deviation. And so this was the deviation marker. When we had the divergence, we closed above here. This candle was where I sold my entire net worth in crypto at 58,000, and we are almost there again. Okay, now I could have stayed in, but the thing was, I bought most of mine here at about 16.8. I think it was right here at this candle. And so not quite. I maybe a third, I would should say, and I bought the rest of it about 25. And then Solana also at $19. So I bought pretty low overall. Those are the two. And I'm being honest with you. Most of my long term spot went to almost 100% between Bitcoin and Solana. I didn't cover any alts as far as holding them. I didn't really hold a lot of other alts other than some small caps. Okay, and most of the other ones are leverage trades of small leverage. I think the max leverage I've done for a long time is like 10x, and that's just fine with me. And so anyway, that's not really the point, but point being, this is a good contention here, and if we kind of mark this out on the fib block, we're right here at the mid, and so we could go as high as 53.5, even 54,000, and then kind of come back down. So why do I say all of this? Well, the one reason I say it is because of this divergence here, and a lot of people are going to make fun of me for this, and I completely understand. But the thing is, we have a divergence, and we also have a divergence near the highs. Now, this isn't just the regular 70% high, as a lot of people in MSNBC do. I do an 80 percentile. And so when we get an 80 percentile, one reason I do 80% is because crypto is a little more bullish than average. It doesn't make sense to put this at 20,000 or not 20, 70. Not sure where I got 20,000 from, because it goes up significantly higher. I've noticed in historic price action that 80 is much more in tune to what really happens with the markets. Now, whenever we get a divergence up in the 80 marker, it tends to roll out pretty significantly. And so one of them here, you can see right here. And so this was the marker right here. And then, yes, we did go up just a little bit. So first of all, we dropped about 20%. Then we went back up 4%. And so another thing is, a lot of people will see that 20% initial, and then we'll go back up, like, all right, things are bullish, yeah, and they're completely, like, that's the typical, we're going to get 20-30% drop, always, that's always how it goes. And then they think it's all automatically over, when that's not how you should view it. This is a distribution. And so we didn't know that at the time, of course. But then once you get a divergence into the highs here, that's very significant, right? And so we end up dropping down from that anyway. We did go up about 4%, maybe all the way up to 12. And then we end up continuing to drop to another 45%. Okay. And then we did come up above that, but we also had a 3-week bearish divergence. So that's the first situation. Okay. We did have a little bit here as well. And I think this, however, was below the belt on the 80. So this didn't really count as far as this example, but it did match well with the divergence. And so that's what I want to mention kind of very briefly, is like divergences are very strong and powerful, and I don't understand to this day why people are still making fun of it, because it has made me a lot of money. It's also saved me from losing a lot of money, and it's probably saved me more than it has made me money. But by saving my money, it allows me to get in better positions to buy lower or more strategically, or just have more mind bandwidth to think about other trades. That's another thing. Like, people want to trade constantly, and I strongly disagree with that. I discourage a lot of my Discord members to trade very heavily, because like mini trades, like 100 trades, and like I've known people that have made 100 trades a day on for an extended period of time. And I can tell you, so in the trading portfolio, we've made less than 20 trades in 40 days. I mean, we're averaging, I think our average has been about one every 48 hours. And that's pretty low. I think that's pretty low. But one reason we're able to, and that's a paid thing, by the way, and That's part of Knowhere Premium. And one reason we're able to be so successful in that is because we increase our risk. So normal risk, in my opinion, for a textbook, answer is 1%. I will risk a minimum of 1.5, and in the portfolio I've risked as much as 7% on one position. And I do that because I want to be more sure of the trades. Like I look at hundreds of coins every day, and instead of looking at 30 coins to buy, I only look at 10 coins that I would be interested in. I pick maybe 3 to 5 of those to actually buy, and then I commit on maybe just 2 or 3 of them. And then because I filter out all the ones that have blemishes or doesn't look, I'm very nitpicky about my trades. And I've always, I'm wrong very constantly. I think I have a pretty good record actually in the portfolio so far. But the thing is, I look at, with 100 coins, I look at the 1 or 2 or possibly 3 that look the best of the best of the best. Okay. And then I take the best of the best of the best and I triple my risk because I am so sure. If I'm so sure that those coins are going to do so well, why don't I risk more to get rewards for all the research that I did and for all the for the success that it should have? You see what I'm saying? And so that should make sense to you. And so that's one reason why I focus on this. Now, this pertains to divergences because I one of the reasons I cut trades is if I have a divergence. I took one out on we had a long position in Polkadot, and I closed that one in the past 24 hours because we had a divergence on the 4 hour. So anyway, they're important. At least they are to me, and they've helped me a lot. So this was your one here. This was your other weekly divergence here on the 19 marker. I can go farther, but we had one is here. Where's it at? I think it's right here. Yeah. And then we had, I think that was about 20-25% drop. So, and we haven't had a lot of weekly divergences, but all the ones that we've had on the top end of the spectrum, 80% and higher, we have gone down. And so that is why I'm very strongly considering that we will go down, because we have a divergence. We're at the highs of the RSI. We're at a mid of the retest block before all-time high. This is a very perfect scenario, and we also have a bullish breaker, which usually gets retest back down to the 46,000 marker in this case. And so we have all the ingredients for a drop down. And so in addition to that, like I've made a decent amount of money the past 2 weeks. And I've made a lot of money in the past 3 or 4 months. But the thing is, it once you've been here for so long, so many cycles, I've been here for 3, you start to understand, okay, this doesn't feel right. Like once you start to feel like euphoria, like I've trained myself is when I start to feel truly euphoric, not like makeshift euphoric or just one a day home run gains kind of euphoric, like fully euphoric, like, oh, this is going to change my life. Like if we, like telling my wife, like if we continue to make the gains that we're making, we're going to be able to buy a brand new house in cash, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's the time when you need to get out, or at least tune down your positions. I've scaled out on some not because I'm afraid of losing money, but because I've made enough to where I'm comfortable being wrong, being sidelined, And so that's kind of how I view that. We're kind of red. I mean, the market's still open, but getting some strong reactions for right now. So that's kind of what I see on the weekly. Even if I'm wrong, so let's say I'm wrong. I do think if I'm wrong and we're going to long instead, I do think that we need to reclaim this 53.5 anyway. And so that's one of those things. And so I would probably wait. If you wanted to scale in on Bitcoin, I would wait until you get a claim above this and then target somewhere here below the mid. And then you could target your all-time highs. The problem too is I'm not interested in any positions on the weekly, and for the another extent, even the daily. All my Bitcoin has already been packed. I've had it packed last year when I went to the Philippines. And that was when we were trading at 25,000, and now we're double that. So I'm completely fine. And so this is one reason I have the theme about Ethereum, because Ethereum is getting the main focus, and then altcoins as well, because I think we're going to get an altcoin run here pretty soon. And so that's why I think, for the most part, I think our focus should be elsewhere. Because one, I do think the probability of a downtrend for Bitcoin is very high, especially for the halving. And that's where, again, I'm not trying to make like I hate the halving discussion, not because I don't have my own opinion, because I have a pretty good one. I hate it because everybody has different opinions and everybody thinks that they're right, you know. So I don't really discuss it. But like I think like middle of April, so it'd be like here. This red marker is like the halving. This is I'm not saying that we should drop down because it's pre-halving, but this would be the perfect time to do so. Honestly, I think it would be the absolute perfect time to do so. To just cool down just before the halving, kind of do a rounded bottom right here, and then we kind of go back up. You know, maybe in June we start breaching, going to 60,000. June or July or even August. Okay, and I know that's not what you guys want to hear. I know you guys don't want to wait 4 to 6 more months to get another 20% on Bitcoin, but I think that that's kind of just how I see it right now. And if I'm wrong, that's great. I actually kind of hope I am wrong because I want to make more money faster too. But you just got to give what the market gives you. And so this is the alternative if that doesn't work. A, a breach of 53,578, or a little bit higher, I guess, or a little bit lower, I should say. Um, that would be the invalidation for this thesis. So let's go ahead and go to the daily, kind of look at some stuff as well. And so, actually, I'm going to reset this weekly here and see, go like so. I'm going to make this out. And another thing, too, is this is part of the reason why we had this consolidation before the uptrend. This distribution area is being very, very much respected. If you notice this, it's targeting here at the mid, it's targeting here from the consolidation at the lows. It's not respecting this, it's not respecting any of these things. It is respecting this, distribution area, that pretty much started the whole thing. And that's pretty significant, I think. And so let's go ahead and go to the daily to kind of see what we're seeing. This is kind of that rounded top that I was looking at. And so if we look at a trend line, this was what I was looking at, a few days ago, is that we had the triple push up, had a brief consolidation on lower time frames, breach above. We need to hold this absolutely, which should be some basically 50,000 marker. If we close on the daily below 50,000, this counts as a deviation, and then I think that we're coming down more, and then probably right here at this area, about 47, which is very close to my $46,000 target. So if we don't hold this position, I think we are coming down about 10%. And I think this just makes perfect sense. I don't understand why people are so hesitant to even bring this up. Like, why would I want to bring this up anyway? Like, people don't like to hear this. Like, I'll lose followers for this. I already know. And I'm okay with that because I tell you the truth. Okay, and I told everybody the truth when I said 17,000 is a massive, massive buy, and I lost followers. I got blocked for it, and whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Okay. For one, because I'm based and I don't care. Second of all, I made money. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do the things that make me money. And if you choose to disagree with me, that's fine. I'm open for disagreement. I'm open for being wrong. But I'm just going to show you what I personally see. That's all it is. There's nothing personal about it, nothing like that. So this is what I see. If we can hold this, we're good to go back to the 53, 54,000. If we don't, we're coming back down to 47. So that is Bitcoin in a nutshell. We do also have a bearish wedge here, so this is kind of a reason why we're also going down too. We had a breakdown below the 80, and so we'll see where this lands. I'm not really particular where this lands as far as the RSI goes. I only care if it goes above 80 or touches 50. And sometimes I care if it goes below 40. It just depends. Usually that's a bear market thing. So that's Bitcoin on the daily. Let's go to Ethereum. All right, so this is Ethereum on the weekly. So now, again, I want to emphasize we are already one day into the weekly, into the week. So this is technically Tuesday as far as the markets go, and so that's why we have this candle. Pretty bullish so far. We had a pretty bullish candle, as you guys know. You probably have guessed. We have expanded for quite some time. There was a time where I had this on all my observations videos. You can go back and check, but I had this for like almost a year. This Adam and Eve structure had this deviation. Actually, I had it marked out right here initially, deviated below, and I'm like, okay, great. That's going to be a bad sign. When we get deviations, they're typically bad. Now, in this particular case, we went, April until basically November. So that was a big detour for Ethereum. The good news is we've expanded from that. We got the expansion here. We did have a divergence. This actually did get invalidated, and so this is different than Bitcoin in that regard because this does have a pure deviation even with this push upwards on that one. Ethereum, however, we got the higher high on this one, so this is invalidated on the upper level, and so this marker, this bearish candle down to 2550 was your divergence basically. So it didn't really do too much. Kind of evaporated with that. So in addition to that, you have here's your upwards consolidation block, and so we are right at the mid again. So what all I do is I target the highs, target the lows here. You get your mid, and that's just how it is. I've mentioned in for probably 48 hours now that I think we will get 3,000 Ethereum. I don't think that that's going to be hard to do, and we almost got it here. We might have got it on some exchanges, but I think we will get it, and then we'll come back down sharply for maybe a couple days or so. I am not interested in Ethereum at this level. I wanted to close the weekly above 3,000 for me to do so. Until then, I think we can get a rejection. If we do get a rejection, I think we could, you could just buy on the way down. Honestly, I know that sounds kind of lame, but the lower end of this target is only 2,500. It's not that low to begin with. And so that's the good thing about Ethereum is we don't have a lot of drop down to go. I mean, 13% isn't a lot considering what's going on here. You had your Adam and Eve structure here. I bought a little bit down at about 17, I think. Had the push above, and so this is going to be a huge retest area. And so I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to buy on the way down instead of in this case, because it's only a 14% drop overall, and this should hold. I'm hard pressed to believe that we ever see below 2,000 on Ethereum ever again. And so this is where the drop down that I'm looking at, I think it's worth paying attention to because you can layer in. This is a great time to ladder in versus the rest of the cycle because we are pretty much almost guaranteed some uptrend. You can never guarantee it, of course, but the time to be bullish is pretty much now as far as the high time frame perspective goes. Everything's kind of going in line. The halving, everything is kind of working out very well. So all that being said, laddering in or DCAing at this particular point could be a good thing. And so that's just something to be aware of. As far as the A-run goes, we're in a full trend, no wedge, no consolidation, nothing like that. Looking good. RSI's good. AO is looking good. Ethereum is looking pretty good overall versus Bitcoin. Bitcoin has about 3.5 flaws. Like Ethereum has got 0. The only really, it's probably got half of one, and that's just because we're at a mid-level resistance. If we break that, we're good to go. And so that's one reason why I'm suggesting that I think ETH may take off. I don't know if it'll take off this week, but I think it might take off for for the rest of the take off as upwards, not take off as taking time off. I think it'll continue to go upwards going into March, where I do think Bitcoin will stall relative to its price for the next 30 to 40 days versus Ethereum, where I think it's going to catch up. But we can look at the ETH BTC chart, Solana BTC or ETH Solana ETH chart and take a look at that, and then we'll look at some other charts as well with Dogecoin and AI coins. But this is something that I'm interested in here, looking pretty solid. Let's go ahead and go to the daily here. This is kind of your mid-level structure here. Another thing I want to look at here is you got this trend line, and I don't know why people don't focus on these trend lines very much because they are pretty significant. And so this one held above this one. I actually want to do this line chart right here and try to see how this can go. Now this can go two different ways. Well, actually, I think I drew it right here. That makes more sense. And so we're pretty much right at that. I mean, you could argue that we are in the process of breaking this. To me, this is too close to call one way or the other. But until we get a clear, that's one reason why I'm waiting to go above 3,000, because we can have a pure result on this trend line break. If this breaks, we're going. If this breaks, we are going above 3,000, which means we might go parabolic for a while. Not parabolic necessarily, but we'll go to probably 3,500. I think that's an easy ask, honestly. But until then, we'll see how this goes. We could get that rejection. So we also got the no divergence here, although it kind of looks like it. We have the Aron bearish wedge. Nothing really of significance on this. I mean, it still looks okay. Again, like I said, all the red flags for me are on Bitcoin, not Ethereum. And I do think that means, a lot of the alts look good as well. We'll get into that, but I think with all of that, I think we could see ETH and some altcoins running for the next couple of months. So anyway, that's Ethereum. Shorter than I expected. I would do actually. I think I might look at the monthly here and just kind of analyze this. It looks just fine. I don't see anything. I mean, you could come back. It could come back down here to 27. That could be a hint that we retest that, but we'll see how that goes. This looks just fine to me. So, all right, now we're going to Solana. All right, let's go to Solana on the weekly. Now, again, current weekly candle, previous one, slightly bullish for the week. Looks just fine. If we kind of look at it like so, we did not breach above it, so that it's pretty key there. As far as the price action goes, this is a pretty big what's called a cup and handle formation. Very, very common. Usually is a result of a continuation. So in this case, it would be bullish. And so that's looking pretty good with that. In addition to that, we have this mid structure right here. It broke above the mid, actually broke above that twice. Not sure how much significance that it has, to be honest with you, because it already breached previously, and when something breaches once and it breaches again, it kind of is invalidated as far as the thesis goes. I could do it with the wicks, but it doesn't really help. Actually, it makes it a little bit worse. So overall, it still looks pretty good. I still would hold to this thesis that this double top isn't really a double top, and that's why I don't really like the ideas of double tops, because sometimes they are parts of cup and handles, things like that. But as long as we hold above the 107 on the weekly, I like this a lot. I think it's looking pretty good. We'll look at some upside targets here in a second. In addition to that, we have a bearish Aron wedge. That's one reason why we do have a double top formation and not an extension, because we're waiting for this to cross upwards. If it does go above, the Aron should reset in that regards. No divergence here either because of this weekly. And it's interesting because if we do get a new closing high, we will get a divergence. So that's something worth mentioning as well. A little tricky spot for Solana. I still think we're going to probably get some upside. I honestly, as far as targets go, I do think we'll hit this 136 and then we'll kind of come back down and stay within the 107 to 36 range for maybe a couple more weeks, I think, overall. As far as altcoins go, Solana has had its day in the sun for the past 3 to 4 months, as you can see on the chart. Has done pretty well. And so as far as the price action goes, you do have a structure right here to work with. So that'd be about 155. The thing is like I think everybody pretty much anticipates we're going to get to all-time highs in Solana. I think that's pretty much a given. We're about, almost halfway there. Just short of being halfway there. And so that's kind of really the interim price target. I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there by this year. Do I think we'll get there by the end of the year, or by the end of how far will we go after that? I guess is what I should be saying. What's the all-time target? And I'm not really looking at that per se. But as far as this goes, I do think we'll hit 136 first, then probably 150, and then there's not much else here, honestly, in between 150 to 250, or I should say 170. I should say so. Probably get to 130, 150, 170, and that looks pretty good. And I don't think we'll get a stop at 200 too often. I think we'll probably just make a build up to 250. And so there's a lot of thought process into that could take the rest of the year to do that as well. And that's the thing, like for some of you, if you want to get in now long-term spot, you're already at 3 digits. So waiting to all-time high, you're only going to get like 120%, which is still a lot, still good compared to stocks. Like we're pretty spoiled in the crypto world to get, like I got a considerable amount in the past 4 months versus like stocks where this, somebody that I know in the stock market has been waiting for that for 5 years. And so because they've had ups and downs, like yes, they got like 40-50% last year, but they also had, all the drops in between that, up and down, where this is more consistent. And so that's one reason why I do put more into crypto, because you can do a lot more even with less, as well as crypto. So anyway, that's kind of the targets I see with Solana. On the weekly, doesn't look too bad in my opinion. Going on to the daily, we have this rejections thus far, and so I kind of want to focus on this like so, probably more so right here, actually, and so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Got the rejection, and so that's so far it's looking like it is. We probably going to get a drop somewhere in this red trend line. Again, we need to hold this 107. Pretty much self-explanatory. Other than that, we have a bearish consolidation leading to a wedge, so that means we should accelerate more to the downside. I wouldn't be surprised if we just chop a little bit, kind of get like a drop down here, like 1 or 2 day chop, and then we come back up. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's looking too bad. We might get a good red day here this week, and I think that that's probably due. But I think other than that, it looks just fine. I think there's other. I think the key is there's other coins that look better. A lot of altcoins. We'll get to some of them in a second and just kind of browse around. But that's Solana for you. I'm going to actually mention Dogecoin. I think I'm going to also briefly touch ETH BTC and SOLETH. And I think I'm going to do DOGEETH as well. So anyway, we'll do those first, then we'll go to Dogecoin. So here's ETH BTC. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these because I think they're becoming less relevant every week, to be honest with you. I don't think ETH BTC is super relevant like it used to be back in 2017, 18, even 19. But we are seeing some consolidation structure. We had this bullish divergence here. Looks like it's trying to form to the upside. If we can breach this, I've mentioned this before, if we can breach this red trend line, I think that we're looking pretty solid. Here's the 2-week version of that. Again, divergence on that, looking pretty solid. I like this a lot, and one reason I do think ETH will probably take some market share pretty quickly, especially over the next 2 months. My guess is, and you can throw the ETF crap in there as well. I do think I've said this a couple weeks now, but I think I'm going to strongly consider it more now that ETH will have much more strength than Bitcoin until the halving. So that's pretty much it for ETH BTC. Now let me kind of go over to SOLETH. Actually, I'm going to go to Sol BTC first. Look at this, kind of see that structure. And so there's nothing really I can see much of this. We got the rejection here. Let me look at this middle structure like so. And so it did breach above that, but we're kind of hanging there. I think we could probably see an extra reclaim here. I think that looks okay. But we do have a consolidation on the bear side. Again, this is the BTC chart, so take it with a grain of salt. But I like this holding above the 002 marker. Let's go ahead and go to SOLETH because there's been a lot of arguments about which one's stronger, etc. And you know what? That was the 2-week chart. Let me go back to the Sol BTC and look at the 1-week. See if I can see something better. That was probably why okay, nothing really. I mean, we could see here, again, the 002. I think that looks just fine. I mean, there's a chance we go to 186, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So let's go ahead and go to SOLETH because I think that's kind of where the contest looks a little more likely. So first of all, I got this structure here. I'm going to act it out like so. Nothing really significant with this. I can't really make anything with that, so I'll just kind of get rid of it. But as far as this goes, this is kind of strange. But I mean, people aren't really trading this either. So let's go ahead and go to the daily. There's not really much I can gather from this. You had a breakdown of this zone. I mean, I could probably do something like this. I think that that's fine. You had a break out of this zone, kind of a double bottom, but now we're kind of retesting below. So I wouldn't be surprised actually if we get this liquidity marker tapped. About 0.033. So we'll see how that goes. Take it with a grain of salt. The good news is, or if you're a Solana fan, like it's already at 34. So that's worth taking into consideration. So, you might see some alts. You might see it outperforming. We'll see how that goes. There's a lot of speculation here. Let's go ahead and go to, a lot of this is just kind of theory. And this is one reason why I don't look at ETH charts to trade unless I see something high time frame. Now, let's go ahead and go to Doge Ethereum. And we'll look at the OKX chart. And so one thing I was looking at with this was that we do have a trend line. And I looked at this previously. And this is like the first time I've ever looked at this chart. But we have kind of a trend line going here. I would not be surprised if we touch here and we kind of break to the upside. And one reason going to talk about Doge here in a second is because I do think Dogecoin is going to go on a run. I think it's a really big number one meme. I still think it is the number one meme coin. I think, Bonk, you could probably get more rewards or SHIB or whatever you want from the last cycle. But Dogecoin is probably going to be here to stay. A lot of normal people will probably end up buying it versus other coins. But and that none of that really matters per se. But I do like how this is starting to form. It's kind of a last ditch effort with this. But again, speculation because it's on Ethereum. Actually, also forgot Doge BTC as well. Had the breakdown here. This is a divergence, actually, a 1 week divergence. So got this at the lows. I think it's looking pretty solid. You also have kind of a trend line formation going on here. So I think that's where, actually, I'm going to set an alert for that because that looks pretty good. And so we'll see how this goes. I think Dogecoin might run. I'll show that in a second. But here's kind of the comparisons between ETH, Solana, Dogecoin on the BTC and ETH charts. So, all right, now let's go to an extended edition of this Observations with Otsu. We'll start with Dogecoin. All right, so now we are on Dogecoin on the weekly, and as you can see right away, one reason you probably think I might be talking about this because we had an impulse, we had a consolidation, and now I'm looking for an expansion overall. But let's kind of go into this first to see what I'm looking at. First of all, we had a bullish week. We also have a pretty good bullish week already. We're up about 5% for the close yesterday. In addition to that, we have a very slim bearish wedge that's getting ready to play out. So I'm looking for a cross there, leading into a bullish consolidation. The bearish reaction was pretty weak, so that's a good sign. We also had a touch of the 50 RSI, and we bounced off of that. So all those are looking pretty good. Now, the one reason, as you can imagine, why I'm looking at Dogecoin is because when you get an impulse like this, so this was your impulse markup phase, you didn't really have a distribution phase. I mean, you had a blow off top. And blow-off tops aren't really distribution, but they kind of are at the same time. Had your capitulation markdown phase. Now you have a consolidation phase. Now, when you have a markdown followed by a consolidation, sometimes you get nothing, right? Sometimes you get nothing. But for a coin like Dogecoin, a coin that's very, very popular, a lot of popular coins, when they get the distribution or the markdown consolidation, they usually get an impulse. So this, you can think of this as one big rounded bottom. The issue is with Dogecoin, you get these very fierce uptrends. And so I would not be surprised if we follow the same route. We kind of go up to about 12, 15 cents. And then we kind of consolidate here for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, even a month possibly. And then we just break above. And I don't know how long that'll last per se. But we'll see how this goes. I think it's looking pretty solid. The key reason for me on the weekly I like is that we broke above this mid. If we can stay above this mid on the weekly, I think we're really good to go. And so that would make me lead to believe that we can hold above. Now, that being said, if you look at this formation here, we already did break above. And so if you're looking from a daily perspective, I already have my signal that I want to long. And so I'd probably put my stop loss right there, my entry where it is right now, and then target, 15 cents, I guess, for this marker, about 441 on the R value, 62% on the percentages. But as far as like the weekly, I think the sky's the limit. And it's one of these things like you could just buy some spot here. I don't think there's any reason. I don't think it's going to hurt too much to just spot buy some Dogecoin in anticipation of a moon bag, because I think the statistically it's probably more likely to happen. So anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to mention on Dogecoin. This is the coin that we talked about in Discord that a lot of people cannot just get right on. Can't get right on X. I keep wanting to call it Twitter, but I guess it's X now. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with that. So anyway, that's Dogecoin. I'm going to take a look at some AI coins, and then we'll kind of see where this goes. The market is red, but this is still just the beginning of the day. So, all right. So first things first is FET. This is a coin that we did look at in my Knowhere Premium. As you can see, we're already up. This was about our entry stop loss. We're about 6.3 at 65%. So that's going pretty good. Now, if you ask me, let's go ahead and go to the weekly. I mean, if you ask me, like, are we going to continue to run or are we not? And so part of me, as far as that position goes, I think is probably done. And in addition to that, we also have a RSI divergence as well. Now, that being said, for new positions, we have entered new high territory on a close if we close above here. So I would probably wait 5 days because this could come up either way. I know it's hard to do, but you'll be surprised how much better positioning you could get if you just wait. Excuse me, I got hiccups now all of a sudden. So this structure is what I would look at as far as holding above it. If, let's say it closes right now, I would probably just long this position. This is a Darvis box, and I would put my stop loss underneath it. And then you could probably target the sky is the limit because you don't know where FET is going to go. I would probably target a minimum of this trend line, 143, about 2.9 at 43%. So that remains to be seen how far to go above that. I don't see any reason why we couldn't target more. AI coins seem to be pretty popular. Your next target would be $2. So let's go ahead and go to AGIX. AGIX. I don't know how to say that. And so this is one where we got this double top here. I think this is rejecting already. And so I'm not too interested in this, to be honest with you. And so some of these coins are going to be pumping because they're AI coins and they're not significant. Some of them are going to be because it's FET, and FET's a good coin. You also got to be mindful of these extensions are really high, like 88 on the RSI. That's pretty high overall. Let's go ahead and go to Ocean. Ocean was another premium chart that we looked at in premium, in Knowhere Premium. And so that was 8.4 at 66%. And that one looks like it's pretty much temporarily done. And so we'll see where this goes. It did kind of go above this. The problem is this is a bullish breaker. So that means we should go back to this target about 64 cents, and an even smaller chance we go to 52 cents. So just keep that in mind. I think this is your retest point. If you want to get a long signal on that, I would wait for 65 cents basically, and then you could target like so, and then just target the highs with that 4R at 44%. And so I think I will stop there. Yeah, I think I'll stop there because I could talk about a lot more about this, but I've given you enough data, I think, for this video. But yeah, let me know what you think. So as far as summary goes, Bitcoin, I'm the most bearish on as far as assets go. I think it's not going to really go too low. I might maybe 10-15% over the next month. But I think we're going to get more of a choppy scenario. I don't think it's going to be significant. I think it's going to give the market a chance to do its own thing while we wait to the halving. I don't think the halving has a part of it, but I think it makes sense to, with all things being said. So I think Bitcoin is probably going to be the least performing, still performing well, but the least performing of all the coins coming up. ETH is doing pretty good overall. I think we're going to get a tap to 3,000 in the next 2 or 3 days. I think with them we're going to come back down to probably about 2,700, and then kind of maybe chop for the rest of the week, and then maybe go up next week to 3,500. So I think it looks pretty good. So I'm kind of a wild card in. I can see good bullish reasons. I can see good bearish reasons. Overall, I think that we're going to get a touchdown to about 104, maybe one more tap to the $100 range. And then if that holds, then we're going to go probably to 140 and then kind of go from there. And so all that being said, there is a divergence in play on the weekly that could mess that up. We also have a bearish wedge for the AROON that could mess that up as well. We also looked at, ETH, BTC and SOLETH and all that stuff. We also looked at Dogecoin, and we also looked at the consolidation for this and kind of the push up impulse that we could getting one of those kind of moonshots that we usually get. And then we also talked about FET, and it's up almost 2% for the day already, but it's one of those coins that FET and Ocean we talked about in premium. But I gave new positions for both of those. This is the one for FET. You can look at the other one for Ocean about 5 minutes prior to this on the recording. And so that's pretty much it for that. I still think AI coins could do well, but we'll see how that goes. A lot of these are overextended, having divergences. But overall, I still think the market on the altcoins are going to do fairly well. So anyway, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Apologies again for the time delay between the analysis and the theme of it. I hope you're having a great day. Always welcome comments, questions, concerns. I'll leave links in the description for all my paid stuff. Happy to discuss more. See you next time.